W5FC. When is Skynet?
I don't know.
Does Charlie know?
Always 9 p.m. Saturday on 146.88. Duh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking on Skynet. I am Virginia, your Skynet control. The net will be starting in about 5 minutes, so if you need to use your repeater for anything, please do so, and we will begin Skynet at 10 o'clock. Thanks a lot. This is Virginia in V5.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is MD5S. My name is Virginia, and I will be your net control for this session of the EARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. The net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a TL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Go to www.w5sc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5sc.org. Announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air. And don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too. Over the air and on Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. First, we'll have general announcements. Then we'll have Texas Astronomical Society events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, what's up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and if there's time, we can have an astronomical Q&A or a 7-3 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5sc.org. And that would be Tom, KU5ICX, and he's in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm checked in. It says here that I'm at L1 between Io and Jupiter. We also have AG5PM, Rich. It says he's at home with Max the dog. We have K5MCD, Cody in Dallas. We have Brenda, WB5OZL in Dallas. We have NT5PM, Tony in Bird City. We have KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat, Milky Way, Galaxy, Solar System. I think these also might be on Earth. N5LIG, Dale in Little Elm. KI5CGM, Travis in McKinney. And AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. So we're off to a really great start with the online check-in. Now let's start with our voice check-in. Starting with the short time check-in. If you are a short time or low power check-in, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Okay, nothing heard for a short time. Now we have general check-ins. General over-the-air voice check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo November 5, Echo, Echo, Echo. This is Al from Allen, Texas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch. Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey John in Coppell. This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Okay, so far the net recognizes KN5 Echo Echo Echo, Al and Allen. We've got KG5 UFR, Jacob in Farmers Branch, K5 JDW, John in Coppell, and W5US Gus in Dallas. Are there any more regular check-ins, general check-ins, please, from now?
This is November 5, Tango X-Ray November, James, the Northeast off.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Mobile in Irving, Bill.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, we've got N5CXN, James in Dallas. We've got N5CB, Mobile, Bill in Irving. And KG5WBL, James in Carrollton. And let's see if we have any more people via the online. Let's see, reload that. Let's reload it. Nope, we're all up to date there. Okay, so round 3 is we're gonna be Echolink check-ins. So if you are with us on Echolink and you would like to check in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
Victor Echo Tree, Hotel Oscar Sierra, Sean in Toronto, Canada.
Okay, we've got N5OF, Clay and Mesquite, and we've got DB3HOS, Sean in Toronto. Nice to have you all the way from Canada this evening. All right, we've got a great group starting out, and next we will just take anybody, anywhere for round 4. If you're on the air or over Echolink or All-Star Link, any more check-ins Please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, Low Power.
Eagle, Foxtrot 5, Bravo, Foxtrot, India, visual check.
Okay, so we picked up WB4MFI Ted in Dallas. It would not be Skynet without you. And then I got KF5BF. I missed your last character, and I also missed your name and your location. So if you could just repeat your call, your name and your location, we'll make sure we get you in here.
Eagle, Foxtrot 5, Bravo, Foxtrot, UPS, Lodge, Richardson.
Okay, I got KF5BFI in Richardson. It's kind of scratchy. I'm not getting your name. Could you spell your name for me phonetically just so I can make sure I get it?
Lodge, Romeo, Alpha, Juliet, Lodge, Stephen.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just want to make sure we got your name. I got R-A-I, I think. I hope I got that right. I apologize if I didn't. Anyway, we're off to a great start. We've got a nice group of check-ins. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. All right, let's get started. Again, my name is Virginia. My call is NV5F. I'm your net control for Skynet this evening. And now let's start with some general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? This can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed ham. So please come now with your general announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, NC 5 p.m. Tony, it would not be Skynet without your general announcements, so come on.
Well, thank you for that vote of confidence and friendship. The Afterglow movie discussion for tonight will focus on Welcome to Blood City. This was from 1977. It's apparently a science fiction, horror, time travel western. So that's going to be interesting. I haven't seen it yet, and I don't think I'm going to have time because Skynet is pretty interesting. So if you have seen the movie or not, please join us at 10:30-ish, maybe 10:35. And maybe, like me, you can decide whether you want to see the movie. This Monday on this repeater at 7 p.m. local time, we'll have an MCOM 101 net. Now, this is not just for RACES or ARIES or MRC or CERT members, but anyone with an interest in public service communication. So please join us. You just can ask any questions you like, share any anecdotes or tips or stories that you think are helpful to others. We often do help one another out. It's a good net, and we learn a lot of interesting things. And it's especially important to learn something because we have 2 public service events coming up in North Texas on the first weekend of May. The DFW MS-150 Charity Bike Ride and the Native Texas Plants and Prairies Day. Both take place, yes, that first weekend, May 3rd. Now, the MS-150 takes place in the Granbury and Glen Rose area. The Native Plants and Prairies Day event takes place here on the shores of White Rock Lake. So one is easier to get to, but the other is probably more exciting and has more chances for exciting disasters and injuries. So please see w5fc.org for more information about the events and links to sign up. That's all I had. NC5TM.
Okay, thank you so much, Tony. Yes, there's going to be a lot of great things going on as we get into May. So thanks very much for those announcements. And also go on w5fc.org. There's at the top of the page, there's stuff about the lecture and lab later this month, and lots of cool stuff going on with the club. Okay, and that movie, I'm not sure what it was. I saw it last night, and I don't know if it was time travel, or horror, or I'm not sure. You're probably not missing much. If you haven't seen the movie, though, join us anyway, because a lot of times you can listen to us and you can decide whether or not you want to see the movie for yourself, and we also ask whether you think you might want to see it after hearing what we have to say. All right, the next thing is we have AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group. We have 3 available nets to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net and learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed, and you need to be registered. You can find the net under Group and the name AMSAT. There's a live audio link available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There are 2 local nets available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone 110.9 on Tuesdays. Tom in 5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there won't be any AMSAT East net that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL tone 110.9, positive offset. The DARC also hosts a number of other nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. As Tony said, this coming Monday will be the INCOM 101 net, and I believe the first and third Mondays we have the Ham Fixins net, which is all about delicious food and recipes. And the fourth Monday is Geek Net, and if we ever have a fifth Monday, that is always a surprise net, and those are the Monday nets are 7 p.m. after the local traffic net. And then, of course, Saturday evening is the Night of Net, which is what you're listening to now. We have TechNet at 7, we have Skynet at 9 to 10:30, and we have Afterglow Movie Net at 10:30. And it's just really like staying up late. And then we also on, if you want to tell us what's going on in your ham world, you can also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. And everyone can check in on this is the first and third Sundays. Dallas Amateur Radio Club does have a meeting on the air net, and that is, what time is that? I think it's 7 in the evening, 1st and 30th days. We also have our daily national traffic nets, and those are every evening at 6:30 p.m. You can learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in, and it's just fun to learn how traffic works and begin to participate if you're interested. We also have the late evening net on the Irving repeater, WA5 CKS 146.72 at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any and all of these nets. All right. We've already had Tony mention the Afterglow movie, but let's get the real details from our Afterglow, our fearless leader of Afterglow, Tom, K5 ICX. Would you like to give us this evening's Afterglow movie synopsis?
Hold on.
Okay, I think that's better. Tonight's Afterglow info is as follows. Peter Sadsey was a director, but not a very good one. He'd been inspired by all the greats, Plan 9 from Outer Space, The Creeping Terror, Starship Invasion, of course, everyone's favorite film to hate, Jetstream. Causing audiences real pain was his specialty. Today, he was handed a script surreptitiously passed to his cell through a pass-through door. He anxiously opened it. A Western, he said to himself. He immediately made one phone call to his agent. Stanley, I need you to call any desperate, out-of-work actors and round them up for my next movie masterpiece, Welcome to Blood City. An unknown voice responded, I can get you Carrot Delay and Jack Palance. Neither is allowed to re-enter the United States right now, but if you can film in Canada, I can sign them up for this gig. Sassy was elated. His next phone call was to his girlfriend, and she needed to make him a cake with a file in it so he could liberate himself and make the movie of his dreams and our nightmare. Join us for Welcome to Blood City from 1977. Believe it or not, there are several video reviews of this movie that were favorable. Hard to believe, but true. Back to you, Virginia, KD5 ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'm sure all those favorable reviewers are all just pure delay fans. Again, this is Virginia. My call is ND5F, and this is Skynet. And you can keep up with ERC events, nets, and activities by going to our club website, w5xc.org. All right, speaking of that website, let's see if we have any more people checked in via the website. And double check here. Okay, looks like we're up to date there. We had a lot of check-ins over there. That thing is very handy, and we appreciate you guys using that. I'll now take additional voice check-ins. If you would like to get on the list, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you are transmitting from.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Okay, we've added KF5ZDL, Bill, and Farmers Branch. Thanks for joining us. All right, now it's time for Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas event, where and when you can look through a telescope. And this is starring Chaz. So come on, Chaz, with the CAS of Dallas event.
Thank you, Virginia. Good evening, everyone, and this is Chaz and Bob the Cat. On April the 25th, 2025,
will be the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting is held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Dr. King from UTD. Her topic is going to be cosmic collisions. That's my title. I can't remember the long, drawn-out title, but maybe we'll get that to you before the meeting. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, tonight is the second Saturday of the month, and the stargazing is held at Frisco. Since it is clear, and I know there's several ham operators that could be there, maybe they're not listening, maybe they're watching the stars and talking to the public, but if there's an amateur radio operator at Frisco, please come now with your call sign if you'd like to make a report. Well, I know there's a lot of things in the sky to see. Jupiter is a prominent thing. Mars is still up there. Let's see now, what else? Oh, the Orion Nebula, the Crab Nebula. Oh, and M41 is a nice star cluster. Oh, there's all sorts of things up there in the sky. Anyway, check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. This is KF5, JHA, Chaz, and Bob the Cat. Back to our Net Control, Virginia.
Okay, thank you so much, Chaz. Yeah, Jupiter is my favorite. It's my favorite planet besides Earth. So I wish I had a telescope if I would go out to Jupiter. Okay, next we have National Space Society events and activities with Bill in 5BB. And Bill, we need you to tell us about series night, which is tonight. So, and other National Space Society stuff. So, take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB. As I told you earlier, I was mobile, but now I am finally got everything set up back here at the home shack, just in time. So you timed it perfectly. So I am the membership director and the vice president of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. National Space Society is an international organization, but it's centered in the U.S. That's where the headquarters is, which encourages development of human activities in space and humans becoming a spacefaring civilization. Our local chapter, North Texas chapter, we meet on the second Sunday of every month at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. So that will be tomorrow, Sunday, April 13th at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue on the the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline. We'll also be streaming our meeting virtually via WebEx. Our presentation will be about the Europa Clipper mission. And our presenter will be virtual, Dr. Tracy Becker, a scientist at the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio. So we're very excited to get Dr. Becker to be presenting to us about Europa Clipper, which is going to go around a moon of one of our large planets, Jupiter. So that will be very exciting. Other things are happening. So today, this evening from 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., that's where I came from, we had a meeting. It was a public interaction at Good Union Urban Barbecue in Richardson at City Line Place. Why were we there? Well, what happened in 1961 on April the 12th? Well, it was the first human in space, Yuri Gagarin. So every year on April the 12th, we honor that first event of humans in space with Yuri's Night. This is an event that occurs all around the world. So we were there. We had a bunch of people from National Space Society there at this event presenting things to people. We had NASA preprints and magazines and all kinds of cool stuff. So that's what happened today. Tomorrow, I already mentioned our chapter meeting in Irving. This is in 5BB, part of Skynet. Then this coming Tuesday, April the 15th, it's the deadline for early bird discounts for registration for the International Space Development Conference, which is the 2025 version is going on in Orlando, Florida, June the 19th to 22nd. So if you were thinking about going to ISDC, you need to do two things no later than Tuesday of this week. Number one, join the National Space Society because you get a significant additional discount by being a member, especially if you're a senior member. Number two, register for the International Space Development Conference no later than Tuesday. You'll get a significant early bird discount. Again, the event is the big yearly convention of the National Space Society, and the International Space Development Conference 2025 will be in Orlando, Florida, June the 19th through the 22nd. And the National Space Society has some other interesting things to announce. First, the National Space Society is proud to announce that Jared Isaacman will keynote at the International Space Development Conference in Orlando, Florida, as I mentioned, in June. Isaacman, who has commanded 2 private orbital space flights, and he has been nominated as the NASA administrator. He will accept the prestigious Wernher von Braun Memorial Award for his Polaris Dawn team on Saturday, June the 21st. He previously won the National Space Society's Space Pioneer Award in 2023. But there's more. The National Space Society welcomes the nomination of Dr. Gene Autry as the Chief Financial Officer of NASA. Autry is the latest of a series of National Space Society leaders that have risen to prominent positions within NASA, the U.S. government, and the space industry. In addition to being the current National Space Society Vice President for Space Development, Dr. Autry has served on the National Space Society Board of Directors. And finally, Friday, April the 25th, if you didn't have enough space stuff going on for this month, Friday, April 25th is the last Friday of April. At 6 to 8 p.m., we will hold the Space Rendezvous social event at Cheddar's Restaurant on Highway 635 in Irving. This event, again, is held on the last Friday evening of each month. You do not need to be a member of any particular group to attend. It's just a social event, but we have a lot of fun. We usually have somewhere between 8 and maybe 11 people there. If you have any questions about any of these National Space Society events, please contact Bill Byram, N5BB, at space@byram.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. If we don't see you before then, we'll see you at Monday at the Frontiers of Flight Museum coming up. It's the anniversary week of our landing on the moon in 1969 with Apollo 11. This is N5BB. Thank you, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for lots of great announcements. That's a lot going on. Pretty spacey time of year. Okay, next we have, again, I'm Virginia. I'm your net control, ND5S, and this is Skynet. Okay, next we have recent astronomical events, and the note I have here is probably read by Tony, ND5PM, usually read by Brenda, WD5OZL, so if you guys want to arm wrestle for who reads this, or if you already have an arrangement, whoever's supposed to read it, please come now.
I don't think Brenda's here, but I'll pause just in case she is.
This is 75OZL. I am here. I've spent most of the week at the hospital with my brother, so we were up in the air as to whether I'd be here. So that's why Tom asked Tony to read some stuff, but I'll be happy to read this if you want me to. WV50ZL.
Physicists don't yet even know whether star-free dark matter halos exist. But now Ethan Nadler, a computational astrophysicist at UC San Diego, has calculated the mass below which halos cannot, they fail, to form stars. This work was done using analytic predictions from galaxy formation theory and cosmological simulations. Historically, our understanding of dark matter has been linked to its behavior in galaxies. A detection of completely dark halos would open up a new window to study the universe, said Naylor. Previously, this threshold for star formation was thought to be between 100 million to 1 billion solar masses. That's an enormous range, due to the cooling of atomic hydrogen gas. Naylor's research shows that star formation can occur in halos all the way down to 10 million solar masses through molecular hydrogen cooling. Now, what's hoped here is that we'll get some actual observation to back up all this wonderful computerized speculation. With the Vera Rubin Observatory coming online later this year and the James Webb Space Telescope already making new observations, there will soon be new data about distant galaxies to test these predictions and hopefully reveal whether completely dark halos exist. This could have far-reaching consequences for cosmology and the nature of dark matter, which we still can't see because it's dark. Anyway, NC5 to you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. I did hear a double with you at the beginning, so I'm wondering if Linda might have also tried to chime in, but you dominated. So we did hear all of that. And okay, thank you. And next is me, Virginia, in D5F with discussion topic of the evening. I do think this topic's interesting. It might lead to a little discussion, and I definitely have an opinion on it, which I will register for the record at the end. And of course, I welcome any friendly discussion on this topic. So, Texas senators are saying move Space Shuttle Discovery from the Smithsonian to Houston. This article is by Robert Z. Perlman, and it's in space.com this week. NASA's retired Space Shuttle Discovery may be removed from the Smithsonian and put on display in Houston if two lawmakers from Texas get their way. U.S. Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz on Thursday, April 10th, introduced the Bring the Space Shuttle Home Act, which directs NASA to take Discovery from the National Collection and its Virginia home of the past 13 years and deliver it to official visitor center for NASA's Johnson Space Center. It is past time that the Space Center Houston Museum houses the Space Shuttle, given the unique relationship between the entire program and its support staff in Houston, said Cruz, who chairs the Senate committee that has oversight of NASA. Bringing the Discovery to its final home will offer hundreds of thousands of visitors each year the opportunity to engage with a living piece of NASA's history and understand why Houston is known worldwide as Space City. On April 12, 2011, NASA announced that it was awarding its winged orbiters to museums in California, Florida, New York, and Virginia, while Atlantis, Endeavour, and the prototype Enterprise went on display for the public education and enjoyment. Discovery, the oldest remaining space-worthy orbiter in the fleet, was identified as the agency's vehicle of record and entered the Smithsonian so that it could serve the additional purpose of supporting future research and study. We spent a lot of time and money to preserve Discovery in as near-to-flight condition as we could to put it in the national collection so that any future engineer or historian has a reference vehicle to look at, measure, or do whatever they need. Dennis Jenkins, a former space shuttle engineer who was the director of NASA's Transition and Retirement Program at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, said in an interview with CollectSpace.com. The Bring the Space Shuttle Home Act provides 90 days from the date of its enactment for NASA to submit a report about how it would conduct the move and then 18 months to complete the transfer. Discovery's original delivery to the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center took years of planning and required hardware that either no longer exists or can no longer be used without a lot of work. Our problem is that we have no ground support equipment remaining on the planet to lift it, to install a tail cone, or do anything else to prepare for its move. All of that hardware was destroyed after Space Shuttle Endeavour was stacked, said Jenkins, who today is director of Endeavour's exhibit at the California Science Center in Los Angeles. We also have no meaningful method of transportation since neither of the shuttle carrier aircraft are currently operable. NASA had two modified Boeing 747 jetliners that were used to ferry the shuttle orbiters across the country. One today sits on display at Space Center Houston and is no longer flight-worthy. The other is at an air park in Palmdale, California. It had its orbiter attachments removed, needs new engines, and would have to be recertified to return to flight. Moving Discovery by land would require a tremendous undertaking. If it's even possible, the relatively short-distance road trip that Jenkins oversaw to transfer Endeavour from Los Angeles International Airport to the California Science Center in 2012 proceeded at a glacial pace and stretched into 3 days while trees had to be cut back and traffic lights lowered. Partially disassembling Discovery is also not an option. Removing the wings would result in destroying many of the thermal blankets and tiles that protected the space shuttle as it returned to Earth, and you would still be left with segments too large to enter normal traffic, explained Jenkins. What about moving it by water? Ignoring that the closest waterway, the Potomac River, is located almost 30 miles from the Udvar-Hazy Center, it would likely require a new enclosed barge to be designed and built. In an open barge, it wouldn't survive the trip, Jenkins said, and in an enclosed barge, large enough to hold Discovery, you would probably stand some risk of losing it in a storm. Even if you were really careful when you moved it, the risk would never be zero. Were it possible to overcome some or all of those obstacles, there would still be the matter of the cost. The bill leaves funding of the move to the NASA administrators using the agency's existing budget without any guarantee of additional allocations by Congress. I can easily see this costing $1 billion, said Jenkins. It is not clear what inspired Cornyn and Cruz to introduce this legislation now. Space Center Houston was not consulted and only learned of the proposed move after it was first reported by the Houston Chronicle on Thursday, April 10th. We're learning the details along with everyone else, said Keisha Bullock, Chief Communications and Marketing Officer and Interim Chief Operating Officer at Space Center Houston. We were not part of the development of the legislation, but we welcome the conversation. According to Bullock, displaying Discovery would not interrupt Space Center Houston's existing expansion plans, but it's too early to say where it could be displayed or how its exhibit would be underwritten. A Senate press release stated that the bill was motivated in part by the Obama administration having played politics to keep Houston from getting one of the shuttles. His clear political favors trumped common sense and fairness when the Obama administration blocked the space city from receiving the recognition it deserves, was Cornyn in a statement. This is not the first time that such a claim has been made, but no evidence has been put forth to support it, said Jenkins. To my knowledge, both the release documentation and lots of conversations with the people involved in the process, there was no pressure from the White House in any regard as to where the orbiters should be or should not go. Jenkins told Collect Space. The other locations were clearly superior to any place else in all of the criteria. Space Center Houston's original proposal more than a decade ago was to put the orbiter in a hangar. It lacked any of the immersive features that the California Science Center or Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex had planned, nor did it reach, at the time, the number of annual visitors that the Intrepid Museum had in Manhattan. Bullock said that for Space Center Houston, the question is not one of politics but history. Houston led the shuttle program, trained the astronauts who flew on its mission, and was the response team for all the triumphs and tragedies that happened with Discovery, he said. Bringing it here from our viewpoint honors that legacy. So this next bit is kind of my opinion. I wrote some of it down. And I wrote, this is particularly of interest to me because I loved Discovery as a kid, probably because it was sort of named after the ship in 2001. I also have a connection to Endeavour since I was part of a national contest in the late 80s where teams of high school students proposed a name for the new shuttle, which was to replace Challenger. My team did pick the name Endeavour, and we developed a fairly sophisticated multimedia presentation to support our name choice. We won the state of Mississippi, and our project got to the finals of the national contest. I think we got second place, and the team which won first had also picked the name Endeavour, and so the rest is history. I also got to see the shuttle Enterprise when it was on display at the World's Fair in New Orleans in 1984. And it makes me wonder how they got the famous test shuttle in and out of the Riverwalk area of New Orleans for that event. I'm guessing a barge and a crane were involved. My opinion on the issue is that Discovery should remain at the Smithsonian as a matter of record. And I don't believe that the choices made as to where to house the retired shuttles were political in the least. And I'm glad that the shuttles are being preserved and enjoyed, and I hope I have the chance to see one of them in the future. I also know some people up in Oklahoma who are dealing with trying to move a museum which involves a 310-foot World War II submarine, and they only want to move it a couple miles up the Arkansas River up in Oklahoma, and I can't even imagine what, as hard as that's going to be and as much as that's going to cost, I can't imagine moving a space shuttle from Virginia all the way to Houston. So my opinion is that Discovery should remain where it is, and the senators from Texas need to stand down and quit with trying to force NASA's hand on something that is very, very not feasible. So that's what I have to say about it. Does anyone have any questions or comments for this presentation? Please come now with your call sign.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5PO, Tony, what do you have to say?
I am wistfully sad that none of the shuttle hardware ended up in the middle of the country. I would have loved to see something go to Chicago, say at the Museum of Science and Industry. But I can remember as a school kid visiting the Saturn V in Houston, and I didn't actually get to see bunny rabbits going in and out of it, although I heard that happened. But I certainly could see birds nesting in it. So their history is not good. And on the other hand, the Apollo Saturn V Center at Kennedy Space Center is just fantastic. Wow. So yeah, I actually haven't been back to the KSC visitor complex since they got the shuttle, and I feel really bad about that. And you've reminded me I should talk to Aaron and we should buy some plane tickets because we love going there. You brought back some irksome memories of Houston and some really happy memories of the Kennedy Space Center. NC5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Well, I can add some to that. I'm happy to report that I have recently been to Space Center Houston, and they have made a lot of improvements. The Saturn V is now indoors. They've built a building around it, and it is fantastic and very well taken care of. They do have the 747, and on top of it is a mock shuttle, which is named Independence, which is very cool to go in. I've actually gone in it, and it does a good job of showing, just how large a space shuttle is, and it's a pretty good reproduction of a space shuttle, and it is on top of the 747, and they've got this, elevator that goes up to where you can actually go up alongside the shuttle and even go inside of the front part of it. It's very cool. I have not been to Kennedy Space Center. That is a dream vacation for me. So maybe the club needs to get a field trip together or something. That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much, Tony. Anybody else? Are there any other opinions or questions or thoughts for tonight's presentation before we move along? Please come now. This is NV5. Okay, thanks everybody for listening along with that, and it did bring back some good memories of when I was a kid and got to go to the World's Fair in New Orleans. And I remember when I rounded the corner into the big courtyard where they had the Enterprise, and that was early in the shuttle program, and I just freaked when I saw that thing. It was so big. I have quite a few pictures of it from back then. I was in the 6th grade. Okay, next we have What's Up with Chaz, KF5JHA. Tell us what's in the daytime and nighttime sky going on, Chaz.
Thank you so much, Virginia. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 2. There is a bright thing that we've seen in the sky in the daytime recently that I've forgotten about. But I don't know if all of you know what it is. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. We have talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It was supposed to go nova back in maybe last year, between April and September, but it hasn't done it yet, so it's way behind schedule. It's currently at a brightness of 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4. Now, this image is from Thursday, April the 10th, of the sun from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can use just your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I talked about the solar cycle, I think it was about 3 months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. Tonight, April the 12th, is when the moon is full. That means the moon was rising when the sun was setting, and the moon will set when the sun rises tomorrow morning. How about that? On April the 20th, the moon phase will be the 3rd quarter phase. On April the 27th, the moon is at its perigee. which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,118 kilometers. The moon will be April the 27th. On May the 4th is the first quarter phase of the moon. On May the 10th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,244 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 6, please. All right, here's a marathon of several different events coming up. Slide 6 is April the 12th. Oh, that's right now. The moon is near the bright star Spica. It's going to be kind of hard to see Spica because the moon's so bright because it's full. It's in conjunction in the east-southeastern evening sky. Right now, go out and take a look. Slide master, slide number 7. On April the 16th, the planets Mercury and Neptune will be in conjunction in the eastern morning sky, being less than 1 degree apart. A telescope will be needed to see the planet Neptune. And since Mercury is in strong twilight, you might need at least a pair of binoculars to see Mercury. Slide master, slide number 8. On the same morning, on April the 16th, if you look in the opposite direction at the same time, but in the southwestern evening sky, in the morning sky, you can observe the conjunction of the moon and the star Antares. That's in the morning sky, yes. Slide master, slide number 9. On April the 24th, there's a conjunction of Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and the moon with Mercury close by in the southeastern sky. You'll need a telescope to observe Neptune again. Slide master, slide number 10. On April the 25th, the moon joins in the conjunction of the moon, Mercury, Neptune, Saturn, and Venus in the southeastern morning sky. Again, you'll need a telescope to observe Neptune, but the rest of them you should be able to see with your 2 eyes and or a pair of binoculars. Interesting. Slide master, slide number 11. On April the 28th, in the northwestern evening sky, the moon and the planet Uranus and the Pleiades star cluster are in conjunction. I've seen the Pleiades star cluster from just a few miles away from downtown Dallas, so you should be able to see it from your location. You'll need at least a pair of binoculars to find the planet Uranus, though. Slide master, slide number 12. On April the 30th, there's a conjunction of Venus, Neptune, and Saturn, all within about 4 degrees of each other in the eastern morning sky. Once again, a telescope is going to be needed to observe the planet Neptune. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 13. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Over on Echo Link, I was telling everyone that Bob the cat has returned next to the computer. Coco is in a different location with Brenda, but hasn't figured out she's on Skynet, so she's safe right now for the moment. Slide master, slide number 14. So as the moon wanes next week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world that's the only one where humans live, and until next time, well, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet transmitting on the W5FC repeater, 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control, Virginia, it's yours.
Okay, thanks, Chaz. Appreciate the what's up this week. And next we have Space Exploration, Space History. It looks like Tony is up again for this. Tony, are you doing this one also? 5 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, take it away.
Okay, so we've had a decent week for space exploration news. Blue Origin is planning to launch its 11th crewed flight of its New Shepard suborbital capsule, with Katy Perry strapping in along with 5 other passengers, all women. The mission, dubbed NS-31, will be the first all-female crew since Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman in space alone in 1963. Katy Perry says she's always been interested in astrophysics. I wonder if she should hang out with Brian May. Saturn is so close to the Sun that most astronomers have been missing a big event. The planet's rings have vanished. Well, not really. I mean, they're still there if you could travel outside the plane of the ecliptic. The rare daylight shot of Saturn next to the Sun is dangerous for your eyes and gears, said astronomer Sebastian Voltmer. However, it was a great experience finding the ghostly-looking planet without its rings in the very transparent blue sky. He took an interesting picture on April 9th. This is called the ring plane crossing. On March 23rd, 2025, Earth passed through the plane of Saturn's rings, so from our point of view, the vast ring system became an almost invisible line. Usually this would make headlines, but the ring plane crossing of 2025 has occurred while Saturn is very dangerously close to the Sun. Don't point your big astronomical binoculars at the Sun. You'll regret it, but you won't be able to see your regret. Only now in early April is Saturn emerging from the glare, so we can see what it looks like as a, quote, naked planet. The next ring plane crossing visible in the night sky will be a triple passage in 2038 to 39, apparently in October, then April, and then July. Brenda gave me a few space-related birthdays to talk about. Donald Holmquist was an interesting scientist astronaut, a very successful doctor, but you never heard of him because he never flew in space. He was selected as a scientist astronaut in the 1960s, but when he did not get a prime crew or backup crew spot in Skylab, he went back to practicing medicine and became influential in dispersing, well, I don't know how to say that, spreading out medical information to the public so we can understand it. We also have Timothy Kopra, born April 9th, 1963. He was on ISS Expedition 20 and Expedition 46/47. Serena Agnon Chancellor was born April 9th, 1976. She was on Expedition 56/57. Kenneth Cockrell was born April 9th, 1950. He had several space shuttle flights, STS-56, 69, 80, 98, and 111. Kind of surprised I don't remember him. I'm doing a podcast that goes through every single space shuttle flight. Likewise, Peter Sellers, born April 11th, 1963, flew on STS-112, 121, and 132. And Frederick Hawk, he had a career that's, I do remember him, that spanned some of those odd mission numberings. He was born on April 11th, 1941. He flew on STS-7, STS-51A, because the Office of Management and Budget liked weird names, and STS-26. This week in space history marks an important milestone, and I want to be polite and not read this entire thing. It's just awesome because April 9th, 1959 was the day that NASA introduced at a just amazing press conference its very first astronaut class, the Mercury 7. The Mercury program represented NASA's first human spaceflight program with the aim to see if a human could survive or do anything useful in space, at least for a few minutes at a time. The Mercury 7 had been chosen in 1959. We have Deke Slayton, who didn't get to fly until the Apollo-Soyuz test project, Gordo Cooper from Mercury Atlas 9 and Gemini 5, Wally Schirra, he managed to fly in Mercury, Apollo, and Gemini, Scott Carpenter, who only flew Mercury Atlas 7, John Glenn, with a very strange career, who flew Friendship 7 and STS-95, Gus Grissom, who flew twice in space and was selected to command the first Apollo manned mission. Unfortunately, he, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee died in the hyperbaric oxygen fire from Apollo 1. And then Alan Shepard became the very first American to fly in space for even a moment when Freedom 7 blasted off from Florida on May 5th, 1961. He later became the fifth man and first human to play golf on the moon. Well, excuse me, fifth man to walk and first human to play golf on the moon. The very last launch of the venerable Delta IV Heavy took place on April 9th, 2024 from Slick 37. It carried an intelligence satellite up into geostationary orbit for the NRO. And something you can really get into, let me tell you, Aaron and I have spent hours doing this. April 11th, 1970 was the launch of Apollo 13. Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Jack Swigert launched aboard the Apollo 13 spacecraft from the Kennedy Space Center, and the mission seemed to be going very smoothly until 55 hours and 55 minutes when they had a problem. This link is not in the Skynet script, but I encourage you strongly to visit Apollo in real time. Just go to your favorite search engine, look at Apollo in real time. Listening to the switching among the different controllers, the different audio tracks, the Capcom. You can hear guys in the background going, "Hey, can you pick my kids up from school? Something weird is happening." It's a real historical experience to go through the details of the flight of Apollo 13. It's much more, I think, interesting. Yeah, the movie was great, mind you, but to go through it in real time, as the flight controllers and astronauts did, you get a much bigger sense of wonder and suspense, and you can kind of feel the cold seeping in as their toes get really cold. April 11th, 1960 was the beginning of Project Ozma, the first project to look for interstellar radio transmissions that came from other star systems. Well, not just other star systems, but intelligent life in other star systems. This effort was led by the legendary Frank Drake of Cornell University. He used an 85-foot telescope at the NRAO in Green Bank, West Virginia, to check out just two stars, Tau Ceti and Epsilon Eridani. He didn't detect any signals from either. Well, actually, he got something from Epsilon Eridani, but it turned out after a few hours of looking to be a false alarm. It was military radar equipment, and definitely not aliens, unless you count the difference between military people and science nerds. And of course, just to back up what Bill said about Urie's night, April 12, 1961, marked the first orbit of a human into space, the first ascent of a human above the von Karman line. He did it just one orbit, but it was a significant milestone in space exploration. Poyakali, let's go. NT5TM, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Tony, and thanks for the reminder about Apollo in real time. That is one of my favorite websites. They're running Apollo in real time. Historically, it's the anniversary, but they run it back-to-back all the time. So you can get on the website and join them where they are, wherever they are in the process of running it, or you can start it from scratch whenever you want. They also have Apollo 11 and one of the other Apollo missions on the website. It's very cool. Sometimes I'll just put it on and run it in the background, sometimes for like several days at a time. It's one of my favorites. So good reminder, and definitely a perfect time of year to check that out. This is Virginia. My call sign is NV5S, and this is Skynet. And next we have Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Once again, we will have Chaz, KF5JHA.
Good evening once again, everyone. Virginia, are you scared every time you pass it over to me? You know, you never know what's going to happen, do you? Slide Master, slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning, in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Caroline covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So Ms. Caroline's constellation of the week this week is Centaurus, the Centaur. You know what a Centaur is. The constellation of Centaurus represents the centaur Cheiron from the Greek mythology. It was the leader of the centaurs, a race of half-man and half-horse creatures. In mythology, it had a reputation of savagery, but it was a noble exception. But Cheiron was a noble exception. I quote from the Folklore Handbook. He was wise and benevolent, taught humans many arts and skills, and is credited with the design of the constellation figures themselves. End of quote. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. The jokes of the week. Now, if you're on Echolink, you're welcome to type in boos, hisses, compliments, clapping of hands, whatever you want to do over there. Otherwise, I'm not sure if I can understand whether you like these or not. Here we go. There's a centaur walking around in a hazmat suit. How would you feel on that? He's from the Centaurs for Disease Control. Oh, come on, that was funny. What do you get if you cross a human and a centaur? A quarter horse. See, a centaur is half human, half horse, and a human, okay, never mind. So a centaur walks into a bar, and the bartender says, what? How's the sore throat? And the centaur replies, oh, my throat isn't hoarse, but my legs are. What do you call a talkative man horse? The centaur of attention. Why did the centaur never get a singing career? He was always somewhat hoarse. Yes, okay. A couple of horse jokes in there, of course. A horse is a horse, of course, of course. I can't sing that. Nope, that would be a violation of FCC. Slide Master, slide number 17. Now, how do you find Centaurus? Let's talk about something that I've already talked about. Virgo has a bright star in it called Spica. If you just go south, down from Spica, you'll run into the constellation of Centaurus. Slide Master, slide number 18. Alpha Centaurus. The proper name for Alpha Centaurus is Rigel Centaurus, which means the centaur's foot, which is derived from the star's position in the constellation. Alpha Centaurus is not visible from Dallas. It is too far south to be seen from this latitude. However, it is theoretically visible from Brownsville, Texas, transiting only about 3.4 degrees above the southern horizon from Brownsville. Alpha Centaurus is a triple star system. It is famous for being the closest star system to the Sun at only 4.34 light years away. It is the third brightest star in the sky as seen from the Earth, shining at a magnitude of 0.27 magnitude. Only Sirius and Canopus appear brighter. We can see Sirius, and of course we can see Canopus too. Slide Master, slide number 19. The system consists of Alpha Centaur A and B and C, with A and B being the close pair that can be split with amateur telescopes. These two stars are similar in size to the Sun. They have an orbital period of about 80 years around each other, with a true distance between them varying from about 11 to about 35 astronomical units. It is the star's trinary nature that stands out in its place in the Astronomical League's Southern Skies Observing Cloud. A is a yellow G2 type star, similar to the Sun, and Beta is a yellow-orange K1 type star. Alpha Centauri C is also known as Proxima Centauri, a red dwarf star that is slightly nearer to us than the bright AB pair, making it the closest individual star to our Sun. It orbits around the AB pair at a distance of about 1 trillion miles, giving it a long orbital period estimated to be about 500,000 years. It shines at 11th magnitude, so it should be visible from the southern dark sky site with a 3-inch or larger telescope. Not from here, but a southern sky site. Slide master, slide number 20. I'm going to talk a little bit about Proxima Centauri. It's also known to have at least one planet orbiting around it, known as Proxima Centauri b, making it the closest known exoplanet to our solar system. It was discovered using the radial velocity method, where the period Doppler shifts of spectral lines of the host star suggest an orbiting object. The discovery of Proxima Centauri b was announced in August of 2016 by the European Southern Observatory. The exoplanet's exact mass has not yet been determined, but is believed to be somewhere around 1.3 to 3 times the mass of the Earth. It is not a giant planet like Jupiter. It orbits Proxima at a distance of 4.6 million miles with a period of 11.2 Earth days. From Proxima Centauri b, from Proxima Centauri b, or indeed from anywhere in the Alpha Centauri triple star system, the Earth's Sun would appear as a bright 0.4 magnitude star in the constellation of Cassiopeia, near the Cassiopeia Perseus border, not far from the double cluster. Oh, if you've never seen the double cluster, all you need is a pair of binoculars, and it looks awesome. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 21. Beta Centauri, also known as Hadar. Hadar is the Arabic word for ground, which derives the fact that in ancient times, Beta Centauri was always close to the horizon when it was visible. Beta Centauri is not visible from Dallas. It is theoretically, again, visible from Brownsville, transiting at 3.8 degrees above the southern horizon. Beta Centauri is a blue-white B1 star similar to Rigel in Orion. It's about 490 light years in distance, and it shines at a magnitude of 0.66, making it the 10th brightest star in the entire sky. Beta Centauri itself is a double star, having a magnitude of 4.1. The companion is difficult to split because it's only 1.3 arc seconds from the primary. Beta Centauri forms a wide negative eye pair of about 4.5 degrees separated from Alpha Centauri A. A line drawn from Alpha Centauri through Beta Centauri points directly to Crux, the Southern Cross. Yep, if you go from Alpha to Beta Centauri, you draw a line, you'll run into the Southern Cross. T Centaurus is a variable star which varies over a 90-day period of time from magnitude 5.5 to its brightest down to about 9th magnitude at its faintest. T Centaurus is easily visible from the latitude of Dallas. It is the northern part of the constellation. Slide master, slide number 22. Omega Centauri, also known as NGC 5139, is a famous globular cluster in the southern sky. Omega is widely believed to be the largest, brightest, and probably the closest of all the globular clusters surrounding the Milky Way. From clear dark skies, Omega can be seen with the naked eye. It shines at about magnitude 3.7. Assuming that you were far enough to the south to see it. The Texas Star Party, that's going to be held starting next weekend at Food Ranch in Fort Davis. I've seen it there before. So once again, the Texas Star Party starts in a week. It's a great location to see Omega Centauri. It's near the Davis Mountain State Park, and as well as the Big Bend National Park. which is even further south. Omega can be seen at the test observing site near Atoka, Oklahoma. Yep, people have observed it from there. Walter Scott Houston, longtime columnist for the Deep Sky Wonders column in the Sky and Telescope magazine, surmised that it could take at least etherical visibility from locations as far north as New York City, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and San Francisco. Houston wrote sightings from Bird City. Yep, there's a Bird City. I thought you'd like that, Tony. Sightings from Bird City, Kansas, at latitude 39 degrees 45 minutes. Pittsburgh and California, and even near the California-Oregon border. Houston himself saw it from his home location, East Haddon, Connecticut. Slide master, slide number 23 is the last object that we're going to talk about, Centaurus A. Centaurus A, also known as NGC 5128, is sometimes called the Hamburger Galaxy, although the nickname appears to be more often used for NGC 3628 and Leo, the third member of the Leo trio, with M65 and M66 being the other two members. It is about 5 degrees due north of Omega Centaur, which can be seen from the latitude of Dallas, and it shines at magnitude 6.7, so it is viewable with binoculars. Stephen James Muir notes that NGC 5128 is the most dynamic and intriguing galaxy in the heavens. It is virtually a superlative in every region of the electromagnetic spectrum. It is, by far, the nearest and most violent Cepheid galaxy known, and is one of the most intense radio sources in the heavens, and a wellspring of infrared, X-ray, and gamma ray radiation as well. Wow, it wraps them all up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 24. Now, there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Centaurus the Centaur. I have given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, you can earn an observing certificate and a pin from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 25, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Centaurus the Centaur. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. Also, time to use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow. Now, I'm not sure if this will happen. The reason is I'll be on my way to the Texas Star Party next Saturday, and the Saturday after that will be the last day of the Texas Star Party, so the next two Skynets I probably won't be participating in, so someone's going to have to imitate Chaz and tell the jokes. Yeah. And this is KF5JJ, Chaz, saying good night, and 73, back to our net control.
All right, good night, Chaz, and thank you so much. This is Virginia, 85F, here for Skynet, and last but never least, we have space launches, and we can also do satellite packages. Tom, 85ICX, are you up for all that?
Yeah, I should be able to do that. So, yep, I'll go right ahead. Space launches for this week. We have overnight, tonight. Oh, this may have already happened. Never mind. Let me go to 13th, 14th. This would be a Falcon 9 Starlink 6-73 launch from SOC 40 at Cape Canaveral. This will be another batch of 27 Starlink V2 mini satellites. A little more than 8 minutes after liftoff, first stage booster will land on a drone ship. Just read the instructions, the Atlantic Ocean. April 16th, Minotaur 4 will launch. This is Emerald 174. This is from SLC 8 at Vandenberg. The Grumman Minotaur 4 rocket will launch the Emerald 174 mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. The agency said there are multiple national security payloads on board, which are designed, built, and operated by the NRO. U.S. Space Force Space Systems Command was responsible for launch procurement through the Orbital Suborbital Program 3 contract. We also have April 19th, the Falcon 9 launch of NRO 145, also from Vandenberg. This will launch another batch of satellites supporting the National Reconnaissance Orbit Office Proliferated Architecture Constellation. Oh boy, you try and say that. The agency has stated the goal to build and fortify the largest government constellation in history with proliferated launches continuing through 2029. Then we have Falcon 9 launch April 21st, CRS-32. This is from Complex 39A at Kennedy. The rocket will launch the company's 32nd Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS-32 mission to the International Space Station. The flight will carry thousands of pounds of science investigations, technology, demonstration, and other consumables to the orbiting outpost to support the crew on board. The Crew Dragon spacecraft will remain docked to the ISS for about a month before undocking and returning to Earth for a splashdown on the coast of California. On, let's see here, April 28th will be the launch of an Atlas V with Kuiper 1. This is from SOC-41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Base. The ULA Atlas V rocket will launch a batch 27 of Amazon's Project Kuiper Internet satellites. These are the first production satellites that will make up Amazon Satellite Internet mega constellations, which will include 3,236 satellites. ULA is launching its Atlas V in the 551 configuration, which is 5 solid rocket boosters, a medium-length payload of fairing. This was from a mission that was scrubbed on April 9th. Okay, let's see here. It's 10:26. Let me jump on over to the next section, which is good satellite passes. Let's see here. I'm going to give you just a few of the ISS. We have the following. April 17th has a very good pass, minus 3.3 magnitude at 6 o'clock in the morning. Out of the south-southwest to reach its highest point at 56 degrees at 6:02, and it'll fall to the northeast at 6:06. Following day, April 18th, also a good pass, minus 2.2 magnitude, 5:14 in the morning. It'll reach its highest point at 27 degrees at 5:14, so it's coming out of shadow, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 5:17. Next up is the April 19th pass, which is at 6:01 a.m. out of the west to southwest, reaches its highest point at 38 degrees out of the northwest, and it'll fall to the north-northeast at 6:06. And finally, 20th of April, minus 3.9 magnitude, 5:15 in the morning. This will be 75 degrees in shadow, 5:15 is the highest point, and then it will fall to the northeast. Let's see here, what else we got? I'll give you the two Tiangong ones here too, if I can make it come up. Oh my, let's see, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Let's see here. The hot is not hot linking. There it goes. Here it is. Man. Little technical problem here. April 18th is a good pass. This is minus 1.1 magnitude at 2056. It reaches highest point at 36 degrees at 2059. It'll fall to the east-northeast at 2101. Then April 19th has a good pass, minus 2.1 magnitude. By the way, the space station is getting larger and larger, additional modules on board, so this is actually a pretty good target to watch these days. It's very bright. This one will be out of the west-northwest at 2032 in the evening. It reaches its highest point at 62 degrees at 2035, and it'll fall to the east-southeast at 2038. And then finally, April 20th. This one is at 2032 in the evening. It'll be out of the west-northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 62 degrees at 2035. It'll fall to the east-southeast at 2038. And Virginia, I'm going to send it back to you. This is KE5 ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom, so much. And we are back in normal repeater state, so we are pretty much finished. Before I shut down, are there any additional check-ins for Skynet? Please come now as you call your name and your
I'm
location.
completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, nothing heard except for HAL 9000. I'll put him on the list. All right. Let's see. We have 22 hams checked in for Skynet. And we appreciate you all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next weekend every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration on this net. The sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams. Videos, archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I sound like I'm announcing a show at the Scarborough Renaissance Fair, and I will be closing the net at, what is it? It's about 10:30 local time, and returning the repeater to its normal amateur use until Afterglow in about 5 minutes. 73 to everybody this evening, and enjoy discovering the universe. Thank you very much. 7-3, this is NV5F.
And we'll be back for the Afterglow movie net, which will be featuring the movie Welcome to Blood City from 1977. It'll be about 5 minutes, and then I think Brenda's going to be our net control, WB50ZL. So you got enough time to make some microwave popcorn, come back, sit down, and talk about this interesting, different movie. Back in 5. KE5, ICX.
This is WB5OZL. Sorry, forgot to turn down my other volume. This is WB5OZL, and this is the Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight, our movie is Welcome to Blood City. It's sort of a sci-fi western. And I'm going to read you the rather short synopsis on Wikipedia. It's a film directed by Peter Zasdy and starring Jack Palance, Keira DeLay, and Samantha Eggar. 5 strangers awake, finding themselves with no memory in a world resembling the Wild West. Their task is to become exempt from being killed, what the townspeople refer to as being immortal, by killing 20 of the other inhabitants of the town under the scrutiny of the sheriff, Jack Palance. Otherwise, they will spend their lives in slavery. It's pretty short, but yeah. Well, we'll get into the plot here shortly. If you'd like to participate tonight, come now with your name, your call sign, and whether or not you saw the movie. Oh, please come now.
This is Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Yes, I saw this movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony. No, I did not watch this fine film.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. Tom, yes, I saw the film.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. Yes, I saw this movie.
And just to be sure, NT5TM, Tony and Alice, no, I didn't watch it, but I'm listening.
Okay, we've got November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill, who did see it. NT5TM, Tony, who didn't, but don't feel like you don't have to, can't say anything. We'll call on you occasionally, see if you've got something to say. KE5ICX, Tom, yes, he did see it. NV5, Foxtrot, Virginia, yes, she saw it. So let's put out a call for Echolink check-ins now.
Bravo Lima Tango, and I'm sorry, Brenda, I'm not sure if you got me down, Bill, I just see you.
No, Bill, I didn't have you down, Bravo Lima Tango. Please come back with your prefix.
Sorry about that. Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato. W5BLT. I did see the movie Welcome to Bland City.
Okay, W5BLT, Bill, who did see the movie I would like to tell everybody I am doing this on Echolink on my cell phone, so I might be a little slow on the uptake, and I may have to stop to reset occasionally. But otherwise, it's going to work fine. All right, usual formats. Let's just start at the top and go down the line, and we'll talk about the plot first, and then the characterizations, and then the special effects. So we're going to start with Bill, N5BB. What did you think about the plot of this fine film?
Well, thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Well, I'm going to have to preface my remarks by making a big complaint. This is, I believe, the poorest quality film-to-video transfer that we've ever watched by far. It was extremely close to being unwatchable. A look at the link that Tom gave, and after looking at the first couple of minutes, I initially thought, something's wrong. I got to find a better one, or I'm not going to be able to watch this. I searched for every other one I could find. They were identical. So I broke down and watched the whole thing, because some reviews indicated it wasn't too bad. Some people actually liked it. But the quality, the audio quality was maybe slightly muffled, but it was reasonable. Pretty good really. And the music was fine. But the image quality was so completely horrible that I think I lost a lot of the plot. That's the reason I'm bringing this up in plot, Brenda. A lot of the things, I couldn't tell what was going on. It was either too dark and muddy. It was things that were red and green mixed together that you couldn't really tell what was what. When they had any characters that would come on, they were blooming. They were kind of overexposed. I couldn't tell what was happening about half the movie. I had to guess. So I think if it had been, I've seen a few pictures taken from the original film, I guess, for posters or something, and they're beautiful. So I think if we had been able to see something that was somehow close to the original film quality, that we would have liked it a lot better. But because the quality was so bad, I have a hard time understanding parts of the plot. The biggest parts that are a bit confusing were right at the start and right at the end. And both of those were rather confusing. And during the film, you kind of learn a bit about what might be happening, but it's still a little confusing. So, of course, there's two plots. Excuse me for ruining for you, Tony. It's a plot within a plot. So there's the plot of what happens in this essentially imaginary kind of pseudo-Western town. And then there's the top-level plot, which seems to be something in the future where there's a war going on, and they're trying to find good squad leaders for very nasty fighting. And so it looks like they're trying to find people that are really good at killing a bunch of people. So that plot point made very little sense to me, and I didn't understand why they were doing this to execute that purpose. It didn't make any sense to me, and they didn't explain it really. I didn't like that, and I didn't like the concept at all of that. This is in 5BB. Continuing, and the woman, I forget her name, the actress that was the scientist, the fact that she seemed to be egging on the protagonist, Dave from 2001: A Space Odyssey. The fact that she looked like she was trying to make him win, but then she decided that maybe he spurned her or whatever. I'm not sure exactly. It wasn't clear to me what happened there. Suddenly, she did everything she could to ruin him. The part I really didn't understand was they had these humans that were subdued, drugged, and I think we were looking at their imaginations. That's the best thing I can imagine that we were really seeing. They were being played against each other in some big video game. What wasn't super clear is when they terminated them, did they just kill the people? Originally, I didn't think so. I thought they were just removing them from the game. And near the end, it looked like all the people that were terminated were coming back. But then it looked like the woman scientist was mad because the protagonist guy was being recovered. So I got really confused about what was going on there, whether they were going to kill them or what. That wasn't clear, because you saw them kind of walking around like they were alive, but they acted like they were going to kill him. Near the end of the movie also confused me. What did the protagonist do? He turns over the machine they were using to control him, and then the next thing you see is him laying on the floor, but then he's back in the Western. I don't know. The only thing I can imagine was that he died in reality, and this was something about in some imaginary universe he was still alive in that cowboy world. But that didn't seem to have much to do with the original plot or anything. So I guess there were several interesting premises they threw in there, but to me, they didn't all work together to give a plot that made sense. That's all I got, Inside BB.
Thank you, Bill. KE5ICX, Tom, your thoughts on the plot, please.
Okay, there we go. I think you were still transmitting, Brenda, but now it's okay. I was getting some feedback. This is kind of interesting. I initially liked the movie. I agree with Bill. It was really hard to watch, but apparently there are no good copies of this movie available. It's only in VHS so far, although there's been some lobbying to try and get this film released in a decent format again, but I don't think that's going to happen. I rather liked the premise. I thought the first half of the film was interesting. It wasn't quite understandable, except that, it's a totalitarian society or something, and they're at war. They need to find leaders, and they've decided that this game is the way to do it. Why they came up with this as the way to do it seems kind of strange. but everybody's expendable, so why not? Let's go for it. So they create this whole kind of Westworld thing. This, I think, actually came out before. No, Westworld was first, I think, so they may have ripped off from Westworld. But even before that, they had done this in The Prisoner, series called Welcome to Harmony, I believe was the name of the show. So if I remember correctly, I've only seen that episode a few times. It was never shown in the United States. It only came out on the DVD. So it was kind of similar to that, where you're in a prison and how do you get out? And that one had a subplot too, because he was a prisoner inside of a prison, inside of a memory that's a prison. So it's kind of strange. But at any rate, I rather like the idea. I thought that, and we can get into characterization, but Jack Palance and Keir Dullea really did well with their roles. I thought they were fantastic in this, and Keir Dullea actually acted like he could act, which was kind of cool. But I'll go into that later, probably because he's working against Jack Palance, who is kind of doing this primordial curly character that he would do later on, years later. Anyway, it's suffered from a typical science fiction problem, which is how do you created this world, how are you going to resolve this thing? And it just didn't quite hold up. Like Bill, I agree, I didn't understand what was happening at the end. This twist at the end, is he dead? I think he's dead, I guess. Or he managed to get back into the thing. It's amazing, one thing that I noticed is he seemed to have a really good idea of what all the buttons did and could make things happen in this room that apparently he doesn't remember anything about himself, but he sure as heck knows how to work all the controls in that little room. So maybe he was able to put himself back into the whatever mental state he was in at the time. So there's that, I guess. The ideas and the fact that they could telegraph what the rules were was somewhat interesting, although somewhat convoluted. I think, personally, and what Quentin Tarantino, did I mention Quentin Tarantino? Oh, I was going to mention, if I didn't already, Quentin Tarantino loves this movie. In fact, he used it as an inspiration for one of his own films. So he thought that this would make a wonderful remake and fix all the parts that didn't work, like the last third of the film, come up with a better premise with an ending that was suitable. And I would agree with him. I think the setup was quite good. It's been used before, as I mentioned, and successfully. So why not do it again, except give it a better ending? So I'll leave it at that. I thought overall it was somewhat enjoyable. It would have been much better if it was better copied. ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Virginia, November Victor 5 Foxtrot. It's your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, I can agree a lot with what others have said. This was something that was, I think, supposed to be a mystery going in, like, you know, you're coming in the middle of the story without exposition, and you're kind of having to figure out what really the setup is as you go. And I don't think that part was terrible. I do agree that the copy of this was horrible. It was super extra cropped. I almost wonder if it was done that way to avoid some kind of copyright scan, because it was ultra cropped. It wasn't just 3/4 cropped. It was 3/4 and then cropped in another maybe 30% around every edge. There were times when it was hard to figure out what was going on, because peripheral action and eye lines and someone might be looking at a character or something that looks like it's off screen, but it's really just cropped out. The tops of people's heads were gone, the sides of people's faces on the edges of the frame. It was just terrible. It was a horrible copy, and then it was terribly low resolution as well. So it was like, 3 generations in and probably three crops in or something. It was awful. But it gave a little mystery. You get in and you have to figure out a little while. It takes you a little while to figure out that certain people are like non-player characters and it's a simulation and they give you kind of the way the world works. And I noticed last night on the text thread we were awful quiet. I think it was kind of interesting and mysterious. And you had a character, Keir Delay's character was very interesting and sympathetic, and he is a good actor. I'll get into that later, but he is a good actor, and he's handsome and very likable. And he had a female lead that you could believe that these two people were kind of thrown into the mix together, but he immediately felt protective of her. And there was a couple things that didn't make sense, like she was all hacked off at him when she suspected him of getting involved with the saloon people, and she was seeing like a silhouette in the window of the saloon, and I don't know how she would have guessed that it was him. So that part didn't make a lot of sense to me. And the whole, oh well, this guy wants her. This one particular, guy in the world who's a citizen of the world wants the girl for we pretty much to figure out why, and there's a certain day they have to wait for him to actually get I didn't understand that. It's like everybody's choosing their new person who came into the simulation as their slave or lackey or, probie or whatever they're supposed to be, and this guy wanted her, but she had to be in jail for a while. I don't know. And then the other guy, he didn't have to be in jail. He just got chosen by somebody. And but I liked the character arc of, I'm going to call him Dave because he's always Dave to me. So I liked Dave's sort of character arc where he's sort of this unassuming guy, and he kind of has to take charge and try to be the moral influence. And it's a typical sort of role or character in a movie like this, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, then the meta world of the people that were controlling the simulation, I would say simulations, because you see the characters get killed in the Western, and then, later when Dave comes to, you see them all the same people, but they're all like moving around like they're sleepwalking in some kind of simulation, but he was lying down and hooked up to a bunch of stuff while he was in his. So there was stuff at the end that didn't make sense. The motivation of the meta world people running the simulation, the lady who seemed to have the hots for Dave and was jealous of the people in the simulation that were interested in him, and she was controlling the simulation to put him through his paces. And then her motivation seemed to come and go. I wasn't quite sure what her goal was. And the guys running the show with her that were kind of frustrated at her for taking a personal interest and kind of manipulating things for her own whatever. I don't know. That part didn't add up, and there was no real clear picture as to what their motivation was doing this in the first place, why they were hooking these people into a simulation, how they kidnapped them and got them in there. And then the end just sucked because, Dave is having memories all the way through it, as are other people. They're having fleeting memories of, and they're kind of trying. He's the main one who's figuring it out, and, then his leading lady gets killed, and he comes out of it, and then he's like, oh, he's figuring out what's going on, but then in the end, what does he do? He just hooks himself back into the simulation because he sees what's around him, and he'd rather just be in there and be a hero. I think that's kind of what it seemed like at the end. It almost seemed like they couldn't really figure out an ending, like a good, satisfying ending, and so they're like, oh yeah, he's just going to decide he likes the kind of badass guy that he became in the Western world, and he's just going to go back there and, I guess live out his days in a simulation. I don't know. So yeah, it's not the end of it. I was kind of interested in it. It wasn't boring. It wasn't great. It was cheesy in places and confusing in other places, partially because of just them trying to. They weren't even sure what they were trying to say, I guess, with it, but it was kind of supposed to be this dystopian thing, and kind of a little bit of 1984 and Westworld, and eugenics and putting people, using people for experiments and future dystopian stuff, and a little bit of Western tropes, like the bad guys who show up at the beginning and they steal their shoes and they have their way with the girl. I mean, God, that's just so overdone, like the whole, hey there, pretty lady. I'm so sick of that. And Jack Palance's character was kind of interesting. He was like the big dog. I guess he'd been there the longest, and it's kind of interesting flashing back to his life as like a priest or whatever, and he was now this kind of, like sort of good guy, bad guy, depending on what he wanted or needed or whatever. And so yeah, it was a little bit like Tom says, a lot of science fiction, you've got to really define what you're trying to say, or really, really, not let yourself get distracted by a bunch of cool ideas, or go, oh, we'll just make it all really like difficult to understand, and that'll just like cover the fact that we weren't really sure what we were trying to have happen here. So anyway, I found it interesting. I followed it well, despite its very many shortcomings, and I was interested. I was interested in whether the guy was going to get the girl and whether they were going to get out of the simulation world, and the ending just kind of left me disappointed. It's not a great movie, but it was at least kept me interested until the very end, which, I wanted him to, overcome, and he just kind of gave in D5.
Thank you, Virginia. Next, W5BLT. Bill, what did you think of the plot?
Well, I hated this movie. I'm probably going to be in a minority, but I've seen something similar to this on the TV series The Prisoner, and so I couldn't help think, but when they had number 6 in the virtual reality world, and it was a Western. And so immediately I just thought it was kind of a rip-off. It made like $900,000 Canadian dollars in 1977. I was confused by it. I sped it up 2 times. I even signed up for YouTube Premium 1 month free, thinking I could turn on an experimental feature 4 times speed. I was just bored. I didn't know who the characters were. I figured out as we went along, it was a simulation, and you had to kill people, and they were looking for a good killer. I was confused at the end because it sounded like they were going to put somebody on a helicopter and they were going to leave. It's just so bizarre. I wouldn't watch it again. Now, on the plus side, I don't know what y'all are complaining about the poor quality of the video. It looked the same as every other movie I've watched. But I'm a blind guy, so what do I care? The video quality didn't affect me at all. But seriously, it just didn't keep my interest. I think that the idea was good, but they had too many conflicting ideas, and I won't really have anything probably on the rest, characterization, or the third part, because I really didn't care about the characters. I really didn't know who they were. If I hadn't read reviews,
I wouldn't have really known who the characters were because they didn't really explain that, and it didn't develop. You were just thrown in the middle, and maybe that's what they wanted, but I found no sharing what happened to these characters at all. And that's part of characterization, but it's also part of the plot. If you have a good plot that makes sense, that's easy to understand. I mean, you can have kind of a complicated plot that I don't know, it just wasn't well done, and I found myself wishing I could just watch the episode of The Prisoner. I felt like a prisoner, just waiting for this movie to get done. That's all I really probably have for tonight. If it wasn't for the Afterglow movie and hanging out with you guys, I probably wouldn't have finished. W5BLT.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Do we have any more check-ins? Please come now. Okay, it's my turn. I think there's kind of a consensus here. It was watchable because you had some really good actors and, a lot of action. But the plot holes were so big, you didn't know what was going on. And even so, just the premise is let's kidnap these people. And we have some kind of war going on, so we're looking for a few really good soldiers. So we'll put them through a test in this simulation while they're in a coma or something. And so I suppose they would conscript them if they were good soldiers or had the right qualities, and they wouldn't have a choice. And maybe these people had families to go back to. And if they died in the simulation, what happened to them? They don't tell us. And it's hard to keep somebody out for a while because it's not good for your body, not good for your muscles. You've got to be kept, fed and watered and taken care of. I'm not sure they were doing that. So it seemed like that was an awful lot of trouble to go through to get a good soldier. Just send them to Navy SEAL training and see who comes out on top. And even then, you've got to have volunteers if you want good soldiers. You can't just force them into it and expect them to buy in. So, the synopsis online didn't really tell us much about the plot. So, I think the whole premise was, a little shaky. And if they could have tweaked it or made some explanations, I think, and improved things. As it was, we just left us scratching our heads going, what? And at least for kind of a bad taste in your mouth at the end. All right, we're going to start back at the top for characterization. Bill, N5BB, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. The BB50ZL in the group. This is N5BB. Well, first I'd like to talk about the poor young woman that seemed to have been raped a couple of times, and then it seemed like she was unnecessarily shot near the end, and I did not understand that scene. didn't our hero shoot her, or did I misunderstand what was going on in that hard to see video? I did not understand that scene at all. It looked to me like she was shot for no reason and killed. And earlier in the movie, he was trying to protect her, and it seemed like he was protecting her. I did not understand this at all. It made no sense. I don't know if the scientists were pulling levers and making people do weird things, which I think was part of what was going on, or whether he had a very weird personality. So I did not understand that. I also think this movie had a huge amount of misogyny going on in it, mainly with respect to that woman, that young woman. Why did we have to see all that, her being abused so badly? I don't like that. I don't like that in the movie. It was fiction, maybe, but I still don't like it. And they acted like the scientists had no trouble with doing that. And the people back there in that make-believe world had no trouble with that either. So that bothered me greatly. That's one reason maybe this movie has disappeared, kind of, is because of the misogyny in it and the way that woman was treated. As opposed to that, the other woman, the scientist, the actress, whose name I can't remember, she seemed to be able, because she was one of the people controlling everything, she seemed to be able to make anything happen she wanted to. And I didn't understand that either. Didn't understand her, what she was really doing. Am I supposed to look at this transparently or think that she had an ulterior purpose? The other technician there was also arguing with her about that. And then she got at the end in like a disagreement with her boss. I didn't understand where she was coming from and her emotion things. So those two characters, the two women characters, bothered me greatly, as well as the men. It seems like nobody in this thing came out good. You know, is there anybody in this whole movie that you respect? This is in 5BB. Is there anybody that's a real hero? Is there anybody that did something that was morally, not necessarily perfect, but at least reasonable or good? No. Not a single person in the whole thing. It's kind of a cesspool of weird morals. Not even bad, I would say kind of weird morals. So that's one thing that bothers me about this and the characterizations in it. I thought it was going to be different at the start. When they first appeared from nowhere, I thought it might be different. But I thought it was very strange that they had these numbers and somebody told him, oh, that's the number of people you've killed. Why did they think that? And that number seemed to have nothing to do with anything else in the movie. Did that number have anything to do with how they were going to be treated or something? No. It's like it was planted there to make them think that they were bad people or something. So anyway, big trouble with characterizations. Again, I wanted to like the movie. The characterization of the sheriff was very weird. At some points, he seemed like he was cruel. At some point, it looked like he was just a dummy doing, like his strings were being pulled, like he had no control over what he was doing. Oh, that's the rules. That's the law. It's like the scientists were making him do exactly what they wanted to. But when you hear the scientists talk about him, no. They thought he was going to be one of their good people that was a killer. So I was confused by the characterizations. Okay? In 5DD. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Into 5TM, Tony. I know you didn't see it, but do you have any opinions or comments about other movies? Well, I guess he has gone. KE5ICX, Tom, tell us about the characters.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And I want to thank Bill. I think he nailed it on this one as far as characterization. There's nobody redeemable really in this movie. There was no character that grew or otherwise was favored. I enjoyed Jack Palance playing Friendlander and Keir Dullea actually acting for a change rather than playing kind of that cool, neutral, almost boring character that we're used to seeing at times in a couple of things, but minimal things that he's done. I thought it was quite good in this as far as a character. As far as his acting was concerned, his character sucked. But I think what we're missing more than anything else is, well, plot for one, is what is the end game? How do you determine who is worthy of being a leader? And why did they pick such an unworthy cause, be it war or whatever? They're looking for someone who's bloodless, blood out for blood. I guess that's part of the problem. If this were a Star Trek episode, they would go and they would explain everything to you, because it was always about, on those shows, at the beginning, you would have something unusual happen, and your antagonist would be doing things to our stars and telling them, torturing them or doing something that was contrary, only to find out later on that what they were doing was trying to save their planet. They think they did that in more than one episode. They did it in a number of episodes. And your antagonist would come out and say, well, this is the only way that we could have survived, saved humanity, or whatever it was. And then it was all okay, because at that point then we knew they were just testing us. And we wanted to see how far we could go, or how healthy we could be, or how to learn empathy, or how to do this or that. There are many episodes like that in a simulated world that they did with Star Trek. Probably too many, because you go, oh God, they've used that same plot device yet again. Well, here they did that, but there wasn't enough to feel satisfied with what was going on. You didn't like the characters. You didn't understand the total premise. You didn't understand the selection process. You didn't understand what motivated these characters. They looked like they were vegetables at the end. Was that what we were looking at? Was this their thoughts are still in the machine or in the simulation, and that's it? I don't know. And then we see, Keir Dullea goes back in, or Lewis goes back in to the simulation, or thinks he is, or he's dead, or I don't know. Nobody knows. So you have no way of connecting the dots. Now, it would be okay if there was some mystery in it, but if you can't even connect the dots for that mystery and come up with your own solution because you don't have enough information to make a good deduction as to what happened, you feel cheated. And I think that's what happened. That's probably why this movie just never went anywhere. Had they taken again, taken, say, the first third of the movie and then done something more logical towards the end and gave us some ideas as to what mattered, what would the Lewis character really been the selected character and why. By the way, what is Fredlander doing there? That guy, is he the one that's the leader right now and Keardeley or Lewis is supposed to take over from him? I mean, if he's the one that was selected already and running the darn place, why would he be the one that they wouldn't want? Is he an imperfect character? Because he seems to make all the right decisions at the right time. People could go against him, but that's the whole point. Everybody's supposed to be against one another. How do you... I don't know. Again, no premise. It drives you crazy trying to figure out where they want to go. I guess that's it on that one. And Barry Morris played Barry Morris as Barry Morris. He kind of plays the same character in everything he does. I think his beard should get separate billing because the beard was also a character in this. Back to you, Brenda. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, I kind of found Lewis at least likable. Keardeley is just likable. I honestly don't think that his other roles are wooden or cold. I think that I don't think his acting is. I think the character, like the one he played in the little show that happened on the Greek village or whatever, he was kind of a fish out of water. He was a little bit detached maybe, you know, but I think he plays that character really well. He's very, very, he's just lovable. He's got a sweetness about him that is, you know, you just kind of like him. And I almost felt like even in 2001 he was that character. He was, you know, Frank was more the gruff, like, you know, well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up for old Hal, you know, and Dave was more like, well, I'm kind of wondering what Hal would think about all this. He had a little warmth to him. It was very subtle, and there was this, you know, subtle rapport between the two of them, you know, Dave and Hal in 2001, and I thought the scene where he disconnected Hal, he did a lot of really good acting in that scene, so I'm going to disagree a little bit there. I actually find him to be a very good actor, very warm, very likable, and I wish he'd had more of a specific, you know, a more defined goal here. I think his goal was to figure out what the heck was going on and to fuck the system in some way that would somehow change things for the better or figure out what was going on and beat the system. And I liked that aspect of this. It kept me watching. I was rooting for him. The other people, Jack Palance is just always Jack Palance. Honestly, my first memory of him in childhood was when he hosted this series called Ripley's Believe It or Not, and he was just so kind of creepy and, hey, you know, and he's just always that guy. And, you know, so that role he played as the sort of sheriff, you know, the corrupt authority figure, you know, the symbol of the system itself. One minute he seems like he's helping you, and the next minute he's, you know, you're terrified of him because he can just, you know, he's just in control of everything. I mean, he's just kind of always Jack Palance, and it just kind of works because he's just sort of hey, you know. So, but yeah, it's hard to know what to make of the people at first, and then you've got this kind of grubby, you know, the grubby Western guys with their beards and their I call them the NPCs. They're all the non-player characters, and some of them were likable, and some of them were bad guys, and you know, the fellow prisoners were. I mean, everybody did okay, and then the women were, you know, they played their stereotype roles. Women, you know, a woman in power versus a woman who's, you know, using her wiles versus the, you know, there was like three main, or there was like really like, yeah, there were like four, I guess it was like the fellow prisoner woman, and then there was the saloon lady, and then there was the lady, the citizen lady in the Western, you know, simulation, who was one of the fellow, you know, she had the red badge on, and then there was the lady in the meta world. So it's interesting. There were four different women in four different, like, you know, this four different sort of stereotype groups of people in this, and heck, you could probably write a research paper on that. You know, and they all kind of had a different, you know, and those roles were pretty distinguished from one another, and you know, and, you know, you had sort of the likable, friendly, you know, characters that were sort of didn't know what was going on, and you know, it could all represent, like, people in the world, that whatever statement this was trying to make, but the fact that Quentin Tarantino likes this movie definitely makes it lose points for me, because I think he's a hack. So all he likes to do is be gross and violent, and you know, he just likes to shock people. That's all he ever wants to do. And whenever he does interviews, he's just like a trash talking potty mouth. So I don't like him anyway. I think he's way overrated. All right, off my soapbox, and I like Keir Dullea. I liked his character. I was rooting for him, and you know, trying to rescue the girl. Who, you know, they were all in a situation they didn't make, and then the end was weird, and the motivations were difficult to understand because they were just inconsistent. You know, I just found the motivations of the people inconsistent, and some of the actions they took were convenient. You know, they're like, they didn't seem motivated. They were just like, oh, we need this person to do this for the plot to do this, and then you have the people controlling the characters and, you know, making them do whatever needed to happen. That's always problematic, too. So acting was fine. You know, people were in roles that were appropriate. I didn't find anything annoying about, you know, really terribly annoying about any of the characters. They all seemed to be in the appropriate roles for the actors. But yeah, I wish the story had been better, and maybe my rooting for a character could have, you know, actually come to something in D5S.
Thank you, Virginia. Okay, W5BLT, Bill, please go ahead. I think he said he wasn't going to stick around for the next round. So do we have any more check-ins? Okay, Bill, inside BB, special effects or anything else you want to talk about?
Thank you again, Brenda. This is Inside BB. First, Virginia, I'm going to strongly disagree. There were 2 women in this film, not 4. there was the young woman that was abused when they first got there, and that was brutally killed for no apparent reason late in the movie. And what I think was the result of most of the misogyny in this film, which I hated. I hated that. I hated the way that character was written and the way they treated her. So there was her, and then there was the scientist woman who injected herself, because of her control, into the film. She played the woman in charge at the bar or whatever that took Keir up to her room. She later appeared with the symbol on her shirt and walked around and did different things in that movie. That's all the same woman. It's the scientist woman. She injected herself into the movie, into the action, and her coworker complained to her about that, saying she shouldn't be doing that. But it made it very confusing. Other things about the film. Well, of course, the quality was horrible, horrible, horrible. The audio quality in particular. The music was okay. I think the music was okay. I think it helped the film. Without it, it would have been really dull. Again, the video was so bad. If there were much special effects, we didn't see them. I don't remember really any special effects. So I don't really think there were any. But you can't tell because we couldn't see what was going on very well. The way I agree completely with Virginia. It looked like the thing was blocked horribly. It looked like they zoomed out the center of the frame, and that made everything appear even fuzzier because it was zoomed so much, and you couldn't see anything around the edge of the frame, and it made it look horrible. What else? I didn't exactly understand the costumes, where they got those costumes from. I mean, how did the people in this Western Blood City world, where did they learn all these rules? They just kind of knew them, the law? There wasn't a book or something. Did they wonder where they had come from? No. Maybe that was on purpose. Maybe they were forced to not. It looked like they were forced to kind of forget where they came from. But that's rather weird. I mean, you'd think they'd have some natural worries about that, but we didn't see much of that, just a little bit. Did they not really have any morals? They seem to say, oh, well, I can't kill you unless you've offended me or something. And I didn't understand that. What did that matter? What did that have to do with the experiment? That made no sense. So, how did they get their food? I didn't see any ranching or farming, really. Everybody, there was some, at least one horse. The sheriff had one. And people were eating, I guess, but where did it come from? Was this Blood City the whole universe? Was there other things outside of it? I mean, I think they ignored that on purpose. We were supposed to believe that these characters were kind of living a scene and they didn't understand anything but what was right in front of them. And I didn't understand the rules about killing the 20 people. Why 20? And although, again, they said you had to be offended or something to make a rightful killing, I saw some killings in this that were just random. And what about the bodyguards? What did that have to do with anything? If they shot somebody, did they get credit for it? I don't know. And how did anybody have time to do their jobs when they were going around threatening people and shooting them all the time? And what happened to people that were killed? Was there a cemetery? Was there an undertaker? So many questions, so little time, such a weird plot. Again, I wanted to like it, but I don't think they tied up very well. They kind of twisted it all up, and I just didn't like the exposition. Inside BB.
Okay, KE5 ICX, Tom, tell us your parting thoughts, please.
Well, I think, and Bill asked all these good questions. These are things that are left unanswered in the movie. Wouldn't these have been great questions to ask in the movie by our protagonist? What's going on? He doesn't know who he is or why, and why things are happening the way they're happening. There was a television series out of New Zealand about 15 years ago. It's called This Is Not My Life. And it involved a guy who gets plunked down into a slightly in the future world where everybody knows who he is, but he doesn't know who he is. He has to find out from everyone else. And he slowly learns that it's a fabricated world, much like this one here. And he asks all these questions, and in some cases his neighbors and people he knew or supposedly knows are replaced. They are replaced with a different person playing the same role. And of course, when he goes to talk to a doctor or something, they say, well, you're under a lot of stress. This is obviously you don't remember, and there's a reason. Now, whether you could have done it in an hour and a half, that might have been a problem, but certainly there was enough slowness in this particular plot to add those things in. One of the things I thought was interesting when watching this is that everybody is going someplace. All those outdoor shots, all these people are going somewhere. Their horses are coming in and going out of town. To where? There's the mining thing. That's it. Is that where they're going, to the mining thing? That's another good question as to what actually is going on. And then the bar. Boy, I like to be the bar owner. Everybody's in there drinking. I don't think anybody's paying for anything, but they're sure doing a lot of drinking. Where are they coming up with all the money? What, taking it from other people? The shopkeepers, they charge, but they're busy picking fights with everybody. At any rate, that's the problem with it. Great premise, some good opportunities here. Other stories have been done better using the same premise, even using the Western format. And the episode I was trying to remember was called Living in Harmony, a play on the words living in harmony, right? And it's basically the same plot from The Prisoner. A better episode, by the way, than this movie, and it gets it all done in 54 minutes. Back to you, Brenda. KE5 I6.
Thank you, Tom. November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll start by saying I don't particularly like Westerns. I don't particularly like simulation stories. I didn't like Pleasantville. I didn't like The Truman Show. Whenever they do those, there was a whole two-show arc on Star Trek Voyager where everything was this, they were running all these simulations in the holodeck and people thought they were really in the simulation. I just don't like simulation plots. There's too many problems with them, I guess. But the argument Tom is making about what are all these people doing, how are they earning a living, you know, why are they all at the bar, how are they paying for their drinks, that could be a question you could ask in every single Western that's not a simulation, or any movie for that matter. You know, these people, or any sitcom, you know, these people you're watching every week, when do these people get anything done? So, you know, there's a lot of movies and stories like that. So I don't think that's unique to this particular thing. Plus, if it's just a simulation, who cares how they're getting anything done? None of it's real anyways. You know, but it could be interesting if the character or characters who are thrown into the simulation could be actually looking around going, this can't be real. Nothing's really happening here. That would have been more interesting than this. And Bill, I take your point about the women. There was that, you know, the one character who was in several roles. So I guess it was more like there were 4 woman roles in this. But she was obviously, you know, she was obviously jealous of I guess his name is Lewis. She was obviously jealous of his interest in the actual woman character, you know, which begs the question, why didn't she just take that character out of the simulation? If she didn't want her in there, why didn't she just put her in another simulation so he couldn't be interested in her? I don't know. But yeah, this is just so full of, I think it's just, you know, an idea that didn't really have any, like, you know, there was no real through line. We did get a little bit of an arc for the main character as to what he desired. He desired to figure out and or get out of where he was and to get the girl and take her with him and, you know, save her. So there was at least that. And Jack Palance was the bad guy and everybody else seemed to be the bad guy except the sort of nice NPC people. But, yeah, music, I didn't like the music. It was bombastic and boring, but it was just there because movies are expected to have music. And, it's something I don't plan to ever watch again, and I didn't find particularly remarkable. But it was interesting enough to keep me watching until the very disappointing ending. NZ5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Do we have any more check-ins?
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, recheck.
Kilo Juliet 5, Delta Zulu Charlie, first check-in. Doug here in Dallas.
Hi, Doug. Tell us your call again, please. I got Kilo Juliet 5 to miss the rest.
Call sign is Kilo Juliet 5, Delta Zulu Charlie in Dallas, Doug.
Okay, W5BLT, you're back in rotation. Do you have some parting thoughts about this movie?
Yeah, first of all, thanks to everybody for filling in a lot of things that I missed in this movie. Even with the bad video, you all were able to tell more than I was able to. The other thing, I don't like the way that women are portrayed in a lot of these movies like that as well. So I would agree with Bill on that. I don't know that it's needed. I don't know that it really adds anything. It was confusing. It could have been so much more, and I think that's maybe why I'm so bitter about it. This one, we watched some bad movies, but this one I kind of feel like I wasted an hour and a half, or maybe not quite that much because I put it on 2x speed. The only thing I would say is it had the typical Western music. I don't know that it added anything, but it didn't, in my view, didn't take away anything. But anyway, that's all I got. Again, I so appreciate everybody on this net. It makes movie watching fun. Even if it's a bad movie, I look forward to this time every Saturday. W5BLT, back to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, KJ5 Delta Zulu Charlie. Doug, this Afterglow Movie Net, we are talking tonight about Welcome to Blood City. Did you see that movie, or do you have any comments?
Hey everybody, I did see the movie. I watched it on Tuesday, which came in on my Roku. And I watched it over the course of 3 days. And initially my reaction, physical, emotional, was, what the heck is this? I don't want to watch this. But then after we got into the whole sim thing, we got into the whole, it was really hard for me to wrestle with. And so I thought, okay, this is art. That's what art is supposed to do. The production value was bad, in my opinion. But let's roll with it. And so I will say this at the end of our conversation this evening, and I really apologize for joining late, is this. One of the first things I thought about was Eisenhower's warning against the military-industrial complex, and that these people in the simulation were not joining of their own agency. They were not joining because they wanted to be in it. They joined, actually they didn't join. They were called out by the military or by an authoritarian figure to, hey, you're going to participate in this experiment. And the usual human forces surface of greed, avarice, sexuality, blah, blah, blah. And I'm really sorry I didn't get on this call earlier. So I'm going to stop there and just say that this is a really great public forum for sharing ideas about art that relate to our current society, whatever your take is on it. So, KJ5 in Dallas.
Okay, Doug. Well, I'm glad you joined us tonight. We're here every Saturday night at 10:30, when the other net, Skynet, is finished. And sometimes we have really good movies and sometimes we don't, but we still always have a good time, regardless of how good or bad the movie is. All right, it is my turn. I really agree with a lot of stuff other people have said. I just have a problem that, they just started collecting people off the street and putting them to sleep and dumping them in this simulation. Well, how did the first people know what the rules were, and did they go along with it? And how long had some of those people been there? It looks like they've been there for years and years. What was the point of that? How long can you keep somebody in a coma? And did nobody miss them? When and if they go home, how are they going to explain it to their wife? It's so problematic, and especially for something as stupid as we want to pick a good soldier. Well, put them in boot camp, see what they're made of. It's just such an ignorant idea that you would find your perfect soldier by putting him in this stupid thing, simulation. And then, when they get out, I don't know. So, music was pretty irrelevant to me. The sets, obviously, they got clothes and buildings and stuff probably left over from something else. They didn't have to pay much or anything for it. So it was probably a low budget, except I expect Keir DeLay and Jack Palance probably wanted a decent salary. Jack Palance was in 1 million movies and TV shows, and so he probably cost quite a bit. All right, well, I think we're at the end here, but I'd like to ask KE5ICX, what are we going to watch next week?
Now, I'm going to have to put a new link in. I just checked it, and the link is not working, but I did find the movie elsewhere over at archive.org, so I'll update that probably in the morning. Next week's movie is 1962's The Underwater City, something in the future. I think it takes place in the distant future, 1990 or something. So that's it. The Underwater City from 1962 will be next week's fine film. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. By the way, I did not pick that movie. If I did, I could have told you what it was instead of Tom. I don't ever pick these, despite him blaming me for them. Okay, well, thanks to everybody for checking in and having a wonderful conversation about this. So this is WB5OZL clear. And closing down the net. We made it before midnight. It's 11:56. Good night.